The Big Ten Women's Conference Tournament begins on Wednesday. We're going to see what team will battle it out for their chance for an automatic bin in the NCAA tournament. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Slasher U. I'm your host, Christian Rao, here with my co-host, Steve Beck. Let's break down what to watch during this conference bracket. I mean, the Big Ten, Steve, this is arguably the toughest conference in all of college basketball this year on the women's side. We're talking about multiple teams, 5 teams right now ranked in the top 20. We're seeing multiple teams in the top 10, and this conference is going to be wild. This tournament is going to be insane. Before we dig into this, I'm sure you have plenty of thoughts on it.
Well, it's the Caitlin Clark show. And then when the nights it's not the Caitlin Clark show, it's going to be the Mackenzie Holmes show. So really, I think there's as many great teams as there are in this conference. And there are a lot of great teams in this conference. You could argue that Maryland is as good, and they certainly had some wonderful moments. Ohio State dazzled early. They kind of stumbled a little bit down the stretch. It is by far top to bottom the toughest conference on the women's side this year, and that's including the SEC with South Carolina and LSU. The Big Ten has been the conference to watch all year long, but for me, it's this is the time for the country at large to really get to see how special Caitlin Clark and Mackenzie Holmes are.
Now, I'll even add Diamond Miller into that conversation, as you mentioned, Maryland as well, because I do think that if a team like Maryland can get past Iowa, they're a dark horse to win it all, in my opinion, if you even want to consider that a dark horse. But let's dig in. This is what the bracket looks like. Game 1 first round, I should say, on March 1st, Penn State taking on Minnesota. And we also have Northwestern taking on Rutgers. And then we move in and we see Michigan as the 5 seed. We see Illinois as a 6, 7 Purdue, and 8 Nebraska. And then this is where it gets really fun. Number 1, Indiana. We're talking about, Mackenzie Holmes here. They played great against Iowa.
Yes.
And the game beforehand, the last game, I'm sure with everyone paying attention to Caitlin Clark getting on the map with that brilliant shot, they sit at number 2, the Hawkeyes do. Number 3, Maryland, as we mentioned before. And then number 4, Ohio State, who started off super strong, but then had that really bad slump at the beginning of February. Indiana, obviously, you have to point out that they could be the favorite in this one, 16-2 conference record. But we just saw recently the Indiana-Iowa game. You and I both think Iowa can win this one. But I will say that I am more interested in an Iowa-Maryland rematch than I am of an Iowa-Indiana. I'm looking forward to that semifinals game if it gets to that first, because I think Maryland has a strong chance. I think if anyone's going to be Iowa, it's going to be Maryland, Steve. That's my thoughts on that one.
Well, it's good. Again, you mentioned Diamond Miller. That's, I think what's going to happen there, they referee differently in the conference. At least I've found in the Big Ten, it seems that they are a lot tougher in the tournament than they are during the regular season. And I think that could hurt Maryland because they are such a physical, aggressive team. And I think that they could pick up some early fouls that will put them back on their heels a little bit. So that's why I'm a little bit more confident in Iowa being able to get by them. But I mean, as good as Iowa and Indiana has been, is there a team in the Big Ten that have had more big moments, big games than Maryland? I would say no.
Yeah, probably not, especially when you add in players like Diamond Miller, as we mentioned, Sam Sellers, Abby Myers. I mean, three-point shots. I mean, just brilliant, fantastic. So, yeah, I'm with you. I really do think that they are a true dark horse to win the entire Big Ten conference tourney in this one. I know we're saying a dark horse as a 3 seed, but that's just really how I feel. I do think that's the case. I think if anybody that doesn't have the double bye, meaning teams that are in the 5 seed or below, stands a chance. I guess I'm going to go easy here. Go Chuck. Number 5, Michigan, I think has a chance to do something interesting because if they win, they have to go through Ohio State. We know how that slump goes. Michigan versus Ohio State is always fantastic as well. If they can get through Indiana, we can see them in the championship game. So if you are looking for an underdog to really push it through, I think Michigan's that team.
Well, I think Illinois also would have a shot. I mean, Illinois would have to play Maryland, and again, I think they would match up well against Maryland. should they beat, whoever they comes in. I guess they would play the winner of Northwestern Rutgers. They shouldn't have any problem with either of those teams. I think Illinois matches up well against Maryland. Again, if it's going to be a closely called Big Ten tournament, then perhaps that would favor Illinois rather than Maryland. Maryland, again, being so aggressive defensively, that could turn to some early foul troubles. So I'm going to look at Illinois as being a dark horse, a team that doesn't have the double bye. But it's probably going to be chalk. I would be surprised if we didn't have chalk. Maybe Nebraska. I don't know. But I mean, I would say it's going to be chalk. And if anybody has a chance, I like Michigan. I do. But I think Illinois would have a better matchup going into that Friday night, March 3rd game than anybody else coming out of that second round of games.
That championship game will be held on March 5th. It's going to be a fantastic game. Whoever's in it, honestly, I think it's going to be the case. But it looks like you and I both think the Iowa Hawkeyes will win the women's conference for the Big Ten. So let us know your thoughts. Do you think that Iowa will win? Do you agree with us? Or do you think some other team in the Big Ten conference will be crowned the champions for the women's side of this conference tournament? Let us know in the comment section below. Hit like and subscribe while you're there. Happy watching, because guess what? March Madness is here.
It's here.